Okay, so lesson 1.2 is order of operations. Again, this is just review. The difference between pre-algebra and algebra, though, is going to be just how long and extensive the problems are. So first, we're going to start off small, and we're going to move ourselves up to longer and more complex problems. So it's always been PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. The one thing that you need to remember, and I know that you've been told this already, but I'm just going to remind you, is that when we get to multiplication or division, it's or division. It depends on which one comes first. You always go in order from left to right. A lot of times we think it's multiplication first because that's what comes first in PEMDAS. But that's not the case. And then it's either addition or subtraction, whichever comes first. You always do the operation that comes, like you're reading a book, that comes first in the problem. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look down here of the do's and don'ts of order of operation. Okay, my screen froze. Hold on. Okay, so let's look at this first problem. And I'm going to show you step by step how I want you to solve these problems, and then maybe some simplified ways for those of you who get it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to write out the expression 3 times 5 squared. And we need to solve this in the correct order. So according to our order of operations, we do parentheses first, but there's no parentheses. So then we move on to exponents. So we have to do our exponents. So 5 squared is our exponent. So we have to solve that before we can do anything else, and that is 25. So now I'm going to bring everything down that I didn't solve, and then the new part of the problem that I did solve. So I didn't do anything with the 3, and 5 squared is 25. And now we could do 3 times 25, which is 70. Yep. Now let's look at the don't of this problem. We did the correct way. Now we're going to do the incorrect method. So 3 times 5 squared. Some people may do 3 times 5 first and get 15 squared. And then they'll do 15 squared and they get 225. You know, on Family Feud, they have those big X's. This is not the correct method. This is. So please make sure you're following those steps precisely. Now, as you're doing your homework, when you get into the longer problems, you may want to come over here. I've given you step-by-step instructions on what to look for, and that might help you guide you along the way. Okay. Let's look at these other two. 6 divided by 2 times 3. Remember, you do multiplication or division depending on which one comes first. In this case, division comes first. So I'm going to divide 6 and 2, and I get 3, and bring down what I didn't do. And then I can multiply 3 times 3 and get 9. But what happens when instead of doing this in the correct order, you do the multiplication first, which is the wrong order? You would end up doing your multiplication first, and you would get 6 divided by 6, which is 1. Different answer, because this one was not done correctly. So this is not the correct way. This is the correct way. I want you to do the third one on your own. Okay, I want you to do the correct way and the incorrect way. finished, you can look up here to see if you did it correctly. Are there any questions on this part? Okay. Go ahead and move on to page 2. So I have a lot of practice because there are so many ways that problems can be set up, and I want to make sure you understand what to do and how to do it. I am going to follow my step-by-step instructions when I do these problems. Now, some of you may say, oh, well, I already know what to do. I can move ahead. Great. But for those of you who can't, just follow along with me. The one thing I will say about those of you who move ahead, just make sure you're checking your answers, because I don't want you to be doing it wrong. And then not do very well. Okay. So first thing I need to check for in this first problem is parentheses. Simplify the expression inside the parenthesis first. So I'm looking at example 1. I have parentheses, so I need to solve what is inside there first. Oh, sorry. Thank you. And I have 5 minus 3, which is 2. So now I'm just going to bring everything down. So 21 divided by 7 plus 2. And now what has changed is the parenthesis times 2 minus 2. Step 1. After parentheses comes exponents. I do not have exponents. So now I'm going to go to step 3. Step 3 says multiplication and division in order from left to right. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I have division. I already see division. So before I even go further, I'm going to solve my division. 21 divided by 7 is 3. I'm going to bring everything down now. So I have 3 plus 2 times 2 minus 2. Now I have to check and make sure all of my multiplication and division is done. So I'm going to go back through my problem. It isn't. I have another multiplication right here, 2 times 2, which is 4. So now I'm going to bring everything down. I have 3 plus 4 minus 2. And now I finished my multiplication and division, and I'm going to do my last step, which is addition and subtraction in order from left to right. And at this point, you probably can finish. So I have to do my addition first because it comes first. So 3 plus 4 is 7. Bring that down. And then I could do the last step, which is 7 minus 2, and I get 5. And that is my final answer. Any questions? These are a little bit longer than what you may be used to. Okay. I'm going to move on to example 2. Now, remember, following the order of operations is important, so we have to do parentheses first. Once you get in parentheses, it's like starting over with the order of operations. So I'm in my parentheses. Within my parentheses, do I have another parenthesis? No, but look at down here. Look at example 6. I have a parenthesis within a parenthesis within a parenthesis. Okay, now those boxy looking things are called brackets, but we can consider them parentheses. So you always want to go in the parentheses and look at and see if there's anything else that you have to do. And you basically start over with the order of operation. But with example 2, there are no other parentheses within that one. So then I go to, and we're still looking within that one, I go to exponent, and I see that I have an exponent. I have 2/3. So the first thing that I'm going to do, did I say 2/3? No. 2 cubed. So I'm going to solve that one. What is 2 cubed? 8. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna rewrite everything, 3 squared times 8 plus 1. Now, if you get confused on what to write, you can always cross off what you solved and replace it with the answer. I still haven't gotten rid of my parentheses, so I have to still solve what's inside there. So I have 8 plus 1, which is 9. And now I've gotten rid of this 8 plus 1, and I have 3 squared times 9. I still have parentheses, but in this case, it represents multiplication. Okay, so now I've gotten that down to multiplication. So we completed all of the parentheses. Now what we have to do, our next step is exponents. So we're gonna solve 3 squared, because that's our exponent, and that is 9. So I've gotten rid of that. So now I have 9 times 9, which is 81. And there's my final answer. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint on example 3, and I want you to try 3 and 4 on your own or with a partner. 3, you have a fraction. I want you to solve your numerator, step 1, your denominator, step 2, and then add your 1 in, that's step 3. So this is a 3-step problem. And then this one is a little bit more complex, but example 2 is sort of similar. So I want you to at least try it, okay? All right, go ahead and work on those. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and solve example 3. I think most of you are done with that one, and then I just want you to check to make sure you got it right. I'm gonna do the numerator first. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Then I'm gonna do my my denominator. So I end up with 2 over 3 plus 1, which equals 1 and 2/3. That's right. No, that was just an example. I'm sorry. How many of you are still working on 4? How many of you, okay. So are you stuck or are you still just working on it? Okay. All right, so for those of you who are waiting, I want you to go to 7 and 8 and try 7 and 8. 5 and 6 are a little bit confusing. You can try them, but you should be able to do 7. Okay, so for example 4, parentheses goes first, so I have to solve what's in parentheses. Within this parentheses, I have addition and I have an exponent. And according to order of operation, the exponent comes first. So I'm going to solve 2 squared, which is 4. Okay. So rewriting everything else, I have 1.5 squared plus 9 plus 4 squared. Now, someone in my last class asked, could we do the 2 squared and the 1.5 squared at the same time? And the answer is yes, you could. But be very, very careful that you don't get things out of order. Okay. I don't do it that way because I don't want to mess myself up. But it will still be right. Okay, I'm still working within the parentheses, so I have to solve 9 plus 4, and I get 13. So I'm going to bring everything down. So I have 1.5 squared plus 13 squared. Now I don't have to write it in parentheses. I could just put plus 13 squared without the parentheses. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now I can do my exponents. So I'm going to do 1.5 squared and 13 squared. And I'm going to show you my work because some people have forgotten how to multiply with decimals. So I'm just going to solve it right here. Okay. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. And then I add my 0 because I'm now moving into the next place value. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. And then I just add this. Okay. Now what I have to do is I have to look at my decimal, where my decimals are. So in this case, I have a decimal over one place here, a decimal over one place here. I add those up, I get 2, which means that I have to place my decimal 2 places inward. So 1.5 squared is 2.25. Okay. Now I'm going to do 13 squared. Does anyone know what 13 squared is? 169. Good job, guys. 2.25 plus 169. Now, students also mess up here because we're supposed to line up our decimal. 169 has a decimal, we just don't see it. 169 has a decimal right here. So anytime you don't see the decimal, it's always at the end of the number, and you could add zeros. In this case, I have 169.00, and I added 2 zeros because there's 2 place values after the decimal number in 2.25. 2.25, and now I can add those together. And I get 171.25. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I added 1.5.
Yeah.
Why I multiplied.
I thought 1.5 was 1 times 5.
Oh,
Okay, I did not see this.
For the exponent, the 2 was on the outside, I put the 2 to the 9 and the 4.
oh, okay. So anytime there's an addition or subtraction, you can't do that. Okay, yes, but you know that, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I started off by doing the outside exponent.
Okay, well, see there, you learned something. So, based on us doing this one, you should be able to do example 5. There aren't any exponents, so it'll be a little bit easier. So I want everybody to try example 5 on your own. Okay?
I already finished all of them.
Yes. Did you?
Yeah, I already finished them.
Okay, so everyone should be working on this. I'll come around, if you're finished, I'll come around and check them. I would say the example 6 is the hardest one. So, I'm definitely gonna do example 6 with you, but the rest you're gonna do on your own. Okay? So, go ahead and do 5. Okay, so for example 5, I do the parenthesis first. 6 plus 2 is 8. Then I rewrite everything else. And then I do 4 times 8, still within the parenthesis, multiplication, and that's 32. Minus 3. Then I finish out my parentheses, 32 minus 3 is 29. So I have 2 times 29. Oops. Which gives me a 58. All right. Okay, any questions on 5 before I move on to 6? Okay, so 6. When you have multiple parentheses, you have to work from the inside out. So you're going to the innermost parenthesis that you can find. In this case, it's 6 plus 5. And with a problem this long, I would cross off what you end up solving along the way. So for example, 6 plus 5 is 11. So I'm going to cross off 6 plus 5 and replace it with an 11. So I'm going to rewrite everything. And what I noticed when I was walking around is that some of you were forgetting to tack on that minus 15. So we can't forget to write everything out. So we have 3 bracket, and we have 3 plus 2. And then after that 2, we have another bracket. And then we have a parenthesis 11 times 3 plus 4 in bracket minus 15. This can get very, very confusing. So go slow, spread out your work, go step by step. Don't skip your steps. All right, we're still working with the innermost parenthesis, but we were able to get rid of one of them. So now we have a set here and a set here. So within this bracket right here, I have 11 times 3 plus 4. Well, according to order of operations, I have to multiply my 11 times 3 first. And I get 33. So I'm going to cross that off. Now I'm going to rewrite everything that I still have left. So I have a 3, start a big bracket, 3 plus 2. I still have a bracket. I haven't gotten rid of it yet. 33 plus 4 in my small bracket, in my big bracket, minus 15. Oops. Okay. I go back in, and my innermost bracket is 33 plus 4, which is 37. Cross off what I solved, and I'm going to rewrite again. So I have 3, start a big bracket, 3 plus 2, little bracket, 37. And that's a 2 times a 37. In my big bracket, minus 15. At this point, you could put that 37 into a parenthesis if it makes more sense to you, but you don't have to. So now I'm really down to one bracket left, which is 3 plus 2 times 37. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 37 first. And I get 74. And I'm going to cross that off. Okay, I'm going to stop for just a second because I feel like I'm going too fast. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So we have 3 times 3 plus 74 in your bracket minus 15. At this point, you should be able to solve it on your own. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. 3 plus 74 is 77. I've run out of room. So I'm going to kind of come up here a little bit. 3 times 77 minus 15. 3 times 77 is 231. 231 minus 15 is 216. So that huge problem. Okay, any questions? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move down to 7 and 8 and solve those because I think most of you have finished those. And then you can check your answers. So just going to start solving them. I'll parentheses first. Okay, go ahead and check 7 through 8. And then I'm going to come around and check the rest if you're finished. And answer any questions you have. And for those of you watching the video, I will solve the last 4 problems so you can check your answers. All right, so we're gonna do 3 times 7, which is 21. And we do, that replaces 3 times 7 with 21. Then we can add 6 plus 21. And actually, my bracket is in the wrong place here. I guess it should be here. So I have 4. 27 plus 5. That's 6 plus 1 is 7. And I do 27 plus 5 and I get 32. So I have 4 times 32. And my final answer is 128. Okay, and that concludes lesson 1.2 order of operations.